If you want to grow on LinkedIn, there are some truths about the algorithm that you need to know. Because everyone talks about whether or not adding a link to your post hurts its reach. Or they will also tell you to don't post exactly at time. But I've been testing all that advice for months and months and months, growing my personal brand on LinkedIn. And the results, you're not gonna like what I found. So this video is for you if you're tired of overthinking how the algorithm works, because I'm gonna give you those answers. Because after reading multiple reports and trying all those things myself, I realized that what most people tell you hurts your reach is not even true. So here we're gonna break down the 3 most common questions asked about LinkedIn and what the data actually says, so you can now focus on what matters and start growing faster. So let's just start with the first question, probably the most asked question of all times, which is, what's the best time to post on LinkedIn? Or if there's actually such a thing like the best posting time. So if you want the fastest answer that I can give you, the best posting time is around 8:07 to 8:10 a.m. Eastern time. And that's what I've seen based on my personal experience, analyzing my data, using and paying for multiple tools that tell you your analytics to know what's the best posting time. And I also choose to be active around that time because it's when I found that the mega influencers were active on the platform. So feel free to take that as your global reference. It's 8:07 to 8:10 a.m. Eastern time. Okay, it's Easter time, so you need to adapt that to your own time zone. Now, I'll also be putting the link in the description to this tool that I think it's amazing because it shows you your best posting time, not only with global data, but based on your time zone and the time zone of the person you want to reach. So for example, I am in Mexico because I live here, but my main clients are in the UK, US, and other countries. So for that reason, I can just use this tool and see where, like, what's the best time, but according to my audience's time zone too. But you need to be really careful with this one because while yes, there are some best times than others to post, when I use these types of tools, sometimes I get replies like, oh yes, if you want to get good results, you can post at 1 a.m. your time. And let's be honest, if you also receive that recommendation, very likely you're not going to be active posting at the time frequently, right? You can wake up one day if you're motivated, post, and then go to sleep again. But there's not going to be healthy consistency on that. And as the best posting time is when you can actually be actively engaging and growing your network, talking with your community, connecting with potential clients. If you're looking to grow on LinkedIn to build a business, then you need to prioritize playing with the filters. For example, here, if I just change for another country or I just change another variable, now it tells me another time, like 6 a.m. And that's actually closer to the time where I post, which is 6 a.m. Like it's 6:30 a.m. my time. And it's also close to the global time zone I gave you, which is around 8:07 and 8:10 a.m. ET, Eastern time. So the full answer to this is that, again, the best posting time is when you can engage before and after your post goes live. Because if you don't do that, according to the way the algorithm works, that it's in a connection per connection basis, just like X or Twitter, however you want to call it, you're very likely going to see a decrease in the reach and the amount of people who are around, just because LinkedIn really prioritizes you building connections with real people and that you're not trying to automate things and not be there. If you want to use numbers as a reference, between 15 or 30 minutes before and after your post gets published, that's a good time so you can be around in the platform when the content gets published. So use this data as a reference, but make sure that it's realistic to your schedule too. Now let's jump into the second thing you need to know about the algorithm, because this is about links in your posts. And if you're not related to the LinkedIn world and you're just starting, you're gonna hear this debate a lot because it's logic, right? Some people are gonna tell you, well, most people are gonna tell you to don't put links in your posts because LinkedIn wants to keep users in the platform. And that's a priority. So if you put a link there, it's logic that they are gonna punish you with something like your reach or your engagement, right? But there's more context that you need to know about that first. And some people will even tell you that you should put the link in the comments. However, I'm gonna tell you exactly what happens if you do that and if it's actually the best thing to do or not. Now, the reason all this debate has been built is because there is some data telling you that yes, if you put a link to your post, it can decrease its reach by around 35%. But actually, new studies show you that it can increase the reach by around 4.90%, which is crazy to me if you ask me, because it's like whole different opinions based on data. And as I was telling you, it actually depends. So let's break this down for you, especially if you're gonna be posting on LinkedIn to attract leads to grow a business. Now, to tell you the full story about this, there's two narratives you need to know. First, there is a type of people who are mainly focused on the content performance. And as they prioritize views and engagement, of course, they tell you to don't put the link. But you just need to be careful with putting the link in the comments, which is the most common advice that you'll hear to fix this, because this actually doesn't work. The idea of putting it in the comments is just so LinkedIn doesn't flag it immediately and kind of doesn't detect the link. I would think that's a goal, right? Or even just to edit the post after 30 minutes and now after those 3 minutes adding the link to that post. But that doesn't really work too. Now, the reason that I'm telling you that the comment with the link is not really useful, it's because LinkedIn uses some filters that tell you what's more relevant and not for one person. And let's imagine that you got a post that a lot of people loved and they had a valuable comment, and other people might just like that comment more than your link. So because of those relevancy filters, your link is gonna get mixed in between all the rest of the comments, and comments from other people are just gonna appear at the top. Because in LinkedIn, you don't have the option of pinning stuff. I've also seen this happening with many other people in the industry where links just get lost. So for that reason, I don't recommend you to do it because it can be an absolute conversion killer. Now, the second narrative that you'll hear from this story, it's the part of the conversion aspect of the game. So you'll find founders, business owners in general, putting links in their posts all the time. Like this guy, Justin Welsh, who's a really well-known name in the industry because he built a massive solopreneur business and he mainly drives traffic from his content. And you'll see him putting links in the posts all the time. And the reason for this is because people like him know the actual truth. That what's more valuable actually is not whether you have a link or not, or if the algorithm hates you or not, is if your content is valuable enough. And I remember when I was starting on this game and I wanted to promote something for my business and the post wasn't performing really well and I was trying to think if it was the link or not. But when I now go back to that post and I read it, it's like, girl, that post, it wasn't even good. Even if you don't have a link there, the post was just useless, so it's not gonna perform too, even without a link. So that's the actual conclusion to this. If you're using the right frameworks, if you're using the right emotional triggers, if you're using the right psychological frameworks to create content that is valuable to someone, it's just gonna work, no matter if you have a link or not. And it's still really useful to have links in your posts so you drive traffic to what you want all the time. Now, let's jump into the third must-ask question of all times, which is if scheduling your content is good or not, and if it can kill your reach. Now, if you're just starting with LinkedIn, it's my mission to tell you that this is a huge debate too, because LinkedIn is not like other platforms. Mainly because LinkedIn hates anything that looks like an automation or that it's an external tool that is connected to the platform, and it's a mess. So much so that this has been studied by some of the biggest names when it comes to LinkedIn data and algorithm reports. But there's old research and updated research. So for that reason, I'm here to help you clean that noise. Because older data told you that yes, you can lose a bit of reach, around 8 to 15%, when you use schedulers. And we're talking about 2023. But the new research actually tells you that there's no difference at all. However, there is something that you need to be considering really carefully, because the exception to this is when someone schedules and then disappears. And now let's be honest, most people that use schedulers are doing that to do other things with their time, right? So if you use a scheduler and then the post gets published and you're not around engaging with your community before and after it goes live, that's when the decrease in the reach happens. Because when you're not actively engaging, you can see on average a decrease in the metrics of 20%. So it's 20% less that you're gonna have for not being active. And that's just what's causing the confusion, because most people are not active when they use the schedulers, and for that reason, it decreases the reach. but it's not the scheduler in the tool by itself, it's just not being active. So for that reason, just be around. And this is one of the biggest topics on LinkedIn. For that reason, most of the people I know that have huge numbers and that have massive profiles hire VAs, virtual assistants, at some point to get in charge of their engagement for them. Just because I know it's so important to reply under their comments and reply to other people's comments too and build a network. But the last warning that I want to give you in this point, and it's one of the reasons that the whole debate around this was caused in the first place, is that if you're gonna schedule, that I found extremely useful because I just I organize everything for the week and then I don't have to worry about anything else than just engaging with my community, and just takes away mental space from your routine. So if your schedule, prioritize doing that with a native LinkedIn scheduler. Because if you use any other tools, like I remember there's a tool, pretty famous by the way, it's called Taplio, or you can just find multiple schedulers, right? The thing here is that LinkedIn doesn't like you to be connecting third-party tools. So when you do this, it can flag your account, and it's not only gonna hurt your reach, but it's gonna put your account on risk. And there's something that pretty recently happened with someone in my community of this person who was about to connect an extension that I was using because I really, really loved. But that week, LinkedIn was just taking out like multiple extensions out. And we even, that week, we even received a message from the founder of one of our favorite free tools for LinkedIn, that it's called Clio, saying like, hey guys, LinkedIn just mentioned we cannot connect the tool in this and this way, but the tool is going to be evolving, we're going to have new things. But overall, LinkedIn just blocked this tool. And for this reason, when this person tried to connect another tool that was completely inoffensive, we really love that tool, LinkedIn didn't allow him to do that anymore. And it actually popped out, whatever, you get the point. It popped out a message saying that, like, hey, we noticed you are connecting something like an automation or an extension, and that goes against the rules. So LinkedIn blocked his account until he took those things away. And this can happen too. They usually block your account for just a few minutes or days, depending on what you do. But this is just for you to be careful of not connecting other tools, or of course doing that under your own risk. And now that you know all of these, so you can clean all that noise that exists about the algorithm on LinkedIn, you can focus on what matters, that is to be consistent actually posting, because if you don't post consistently, none of this is gonna matter at all. But if you're always second guessing what to post and what to say, you'll burn out yourself really fast. So you can click to see the next video on the screen where I'll show you how to simplify your content creation process, post more consistently, and stop overthinking every post.